Well, it's a big one tonight at the Peterson Events Center. Pitt, Duke, 9 p.m. tip-off. Way too late for me. How are we ever going to stay up? I'm releasing this video at 5 a.m. I better take a nap. You better take a nap. The Pitt players better take a nap. Everybody better take a nap, because when Duke comes to town, you know it's a big game. You know you better be up for a big game, and that means we need to stay up until the start of the big game, 9 p.m. tonight. All right, we're going to talk about more than just how we're all old and too old to stay up that late for a game. But then again, if there was going to be a game you would put at 9 o'clock, at least it's Duke. You wouldn't want to have Pitt, Georgia Tech, or the Louisville game at home at 9 o'clock. You want the one that's going to attract eyeballs and attract attention and bring its own level of energy. And when you play Duke, that energy shows up. So are the Panthers going to show up tonight? How are they going to do against the Blue Devils? Let's break it all down on today's Morning Pitt, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, you don't want to get caught up in the name on the front of the jersey. I mean, obviously you have to play the players, and it doesn't matter who's wearing it. But when it's Duke, it's a big deal, and it's going to be a big deal, and the players are going to know that. They're going to feel that energy. The zoo is going to know that. They're going to feel that energy. The whole building is going to know that, and they're going to feel that energy. And to be honest, if it's anything like the North Carolina game, it's probably going to be a lot of blue. And I'm not talking about the Pitt blue, the royal blue, the editorial blue. It's going to be the Duke blue, because the Blue Devils are going to bring fans, just like the Carolina fans did, driving all the way down from Cranberry. It's going to be, there's going to be a heavy Duke influence in the crowd. I guess what I'm saying is, even though Pitt is at home, the Panthers should not expect to have nice, quiet silence during their free throws. All right, it's the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. The most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet: football, basketball, recruiting. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com, and message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans. All day, every day, Pitt fans are online at Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, talking about Pitt sports and everything going on with the Panthers. Certainly, there's been a lot of conversation the last few days about the changes on the offensive staff, the landing of Eli Holstein, the Alabama quarterback from a transfer. But there's going to be a lot of conversation on the message boards on the hoop side tonight, with Pitt hosting Duke at the Peterson Events Center. Even though it's a home game, we'll still have the game thread going. I think a lot of people who are on Panther-Lair.com will be at the game, but game thread will be going. It'll be lively, and people post from the game too. So you want in-person observations and reactions. People will be at the game posting on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you check that out. If you're a Pitt fan, you want to talk to other Pitt fans, Panther-Lair.com. And that's the website that I write for. That's the website that I run. It's the website that, puts food on my table. So if you're the guy out there who says I say Panther-Lair too much, sorry, boss. That's what we're here to do, promote the site. We're also here to promote our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, where I'm going to say Panther-Lair again because it's called youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com. You only have to type it once. But what you do get to do, and what we would like it if you did, is like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is called youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's where we put all these videos, these Morning Pitt videos like you're watching right now, Monday through Friday. We do those. We have our weekly live show that we do every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Me and Jim Hammett from Panther-Lair.com will be hanging out tomorrow night at 8 o'clock right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And we'll have a good conversation. Jim and I will talk. You guys can be in the chat screen, so we'll take your comments and your questions. We'll have a little back and forth for the course of the hour. It'll be fun. We also do live post-game shows right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And those are always fun. We get together after the game and hang out and talk. It's a good time. It's a lot of fun. We'll do it after road games. We're not going to do it after a home game. I'm not doing a live stream tonight at like 2 in the morning. No, I'm just not. But we'll do it after road games, though, even late road games. If it was a 9 o'clock road game, we would do a post-game show. But considering I won't get home from the Peterson Event Center until after 1 tonight, not going to do it. So no live stream after this game, but we'll have them after a lot of the road games. And it's all right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you won't miss any of it. All right, let's dive into this game. Panthers hosting the Blue Devils. Duke ranked number 11 in the nation right now, sitting with an 11-3 record. They're 2-1 in the ACC. Pitt, of course, is 10-5, 1-3 in the conference, fresh off their first ACC win, having defeated Louisville on the road, a game that doesn't really move the needle much, stands as a quad 4 win. Pitt is now 6-0 against quad 4 in quad 4 games, and that's a moving number. These teams, their quad rankings, their net rankings, will change and shift as they go through the season. As it stands right now, Pitt is 6-0 against in quad 4 games and 4-1 in quad 3 games. I think the Missouri game is that one sort of stinger in there. But going 10-1 against quad 3 and quad 4 is good. I think when you're talking about NCAA tournament resume, that's good. Going 6-0 against quad 4 is good. You're not going to make the tournament for going 6-0, but you could get left out of the tournament if you have a couple losses in that category against sort of the worst of the worst, right? And Pitt has been able to take care of business in both of those areas. Where they've struggled is the quad 1 and quad 2 games. They don't currently have any quad 2 games on their resume. Things keep moving around. Syracuse, the Syracuse game was a quad 2 game, moved into quad 1 territory with Syracuse just barely on the cusp there. When I checked the net ranking yesterday, they were number 75, which if you play 1 to 75 on the road, it counts as a quad 1 game. So that Syracuse game goes as a loss. Pitt's latest loss against a quad 1 opponent. They are now 0-4 against quad 1 games. And of course, tonight is one of those. Both of these Duke games, tonight and when they make the return trip to Cameron in a week or two, whenever that is, that's a quad 1 game, quadrant 1 game. And obviously those are going to be the resume builders. And that, as much as anything, and I mean, look, you got a lot that's on the line tonight. You got an opportunity to energize the fan base. You got an opportunity to get a big win. You've got an opportunity to, I think probably add a victory where a lot of people are expecting you not to add a victory. And I think really kind of change the perception of what your season has been and what your season could be. And it's a resume building opportunity when you play a team like Duke, and not just because of being Duke, but because of how good they are this year, how good they look. They're currently number 18 in the net rankings. The highest ranked team that Pitt is going to face the rest of the way, or the best ranked team that Pitt is going to face the rest of the way. Clemson has dropped down to number 23 after losing to North Carolina. North Carolina climbed to number 10. So North Carolina currently stands as the highest ranked team on Pitt's net ranking on Pitt's schedule overall, but the Panthers don't play the Tar Heels again. They will have a return trip to Clemson after losing to the Tigers in that weird random one-off ACC game in early December. They go back to Clemson either late February. I think it's late February. Clemson in the top 25, the net rankings on the road. That'll be a quad 1 game unless Clemson completely falls off a cliff. But Duke right now stands as the best opportunity, at least in terms of the highest ranked team on Pitt's schedule. If you're going to get a resume building win, you want to do it against this team. You want to do it at home. You certainly want to do it on the road. Either one would count as a quad 1 win. It would be huge for Pitt to turn that 0-4 into a 1-4. And if you can start stacking up a few wins in that quad 1 and quad 2 area, in those quad 1 and quad 2 games, then you start really building your resume. And Pitt hasn't really built much of a resume thus far. They don't really have any great wins to speak of. Like I say, they're 0-4 against quad 1 and quad 2 teams, or in quad 1 and quad 2 games. 10-1 in the 3 and 4 games. That's great. You haven't really blown too many of those, but they are at some point going to need to start stacking some wins in that top half of the schedule. Now, fortunately for Pitt, they've got a lot of opportunities coming up. 13 of their final 16 games, as it stands right now, on January 9th, are quad 1 and quad 2 games. The 2 Duke games. The Syracuse game at home is a quad 2 game. Wake Forest, home and away. Away is a quad 1. On the road is or at home is a quad 2. Same deal with NC State. Virginia on the road is quad 1. That Clemson game that we mentioned. Boston College right now sneaks under the gun on the road is a quad 1 game when Pitt plays them near the end of the season. Virginia Tech at home will stand as a quad 2 game. So 13 out of 16 games, they're going to have opportunities for good wins, quality wins, that resume building wins. But none are bigger than the one tonight. And then the return trip to Cameron in a week or so. Those are the 2 biggest games on the schedule, and it starts obviously tonight. And we know Pitt got swept by Duke last year. Tough loss at Cameron during the regular season. Took an 11-point lead into halftime, ended up blowing that game and losing it. Kyle Filipowski just unstoppable, 28-15 in that game. He wasn't the only one, but that was a big part of it, and Pitt got absolutely crushed on the boards, 51-28. That, as much as anything, cost them that game. And then they went to the ACC tournament and just got absolutely destroyed. And, losing by 27, 96-69. And it was interesting to look back at the box score from that game. Filipowski scored 22, had no rebounds, and only played 16 minutes. He hit 2 threes in like the first couple minutes. He hurt his ankle, ended up, basically he came back in a little bit later, missed about 6 minutes with an ankle injury, came back in, scored a bunch more before halftime, finished up with 22 points, and left the game with about 11 minutes to play because he wasn't needed anymore. Duke only out-rebounded Pitt 30-25 in that game, partially due to the fact that both teams shot relatively well. Duke had 62% from the field. Pitt was over 40%. Duke shot 42% from 3. And they scored 46 points in the paint. And this is my biggest concern going into tonight's game, is the battle at center. That game, the first game, the game in Cameron, not only did Kyle Filipowski go for 28 and 15, but he fouled out Guillermo Diaz-Graham, and he got 4 fouls on Federico. And I sort of feel like that formula could repeat tonight with Filipowski rolling like he is. He is just a beast and a load down low. And, I think it's going to be a real challenge for both of those guys to try to defend him and to stay out of foul trouble while doing it. That's going to be the real trick. And, we haven't seen a whole lot with Guillermo Diaz-Graham or Federico on the defensive end. We've seen offense flash from Guillermo. Again, it's happening outside the arc. It's not really happening in the post or close to the hoop. But we've seen him provide some offense, but Federico has not played up to the defensive level that he played last year. And Guillermo is obviously still a work in progress on that front as well, and there's probably a question of where the ceiling really is for him. And so this is going to be a huge challenge. I think Pitt is a better rebounding team this year than they've been, than they were last year, I would say. And Duke isn't a great rebounding team. When you look at their numbers, either total rebounds grabbed, total offensive rebounds, total defensive rebounds, or rebounding margin, they're like outside the top 150 nationally, and they're near the bottom of the ACC in all of those categories. So they're not a great rebounding team, despite the presence of Filipowski. So maybe there's an opportunity for Pitt to kind of close that gap. But you could even look at like the ACC tournament game where they only got out-rebounded by 5, but they gave up 62% scoring. They had no answer for Filipowski, who, if he was healthy and played 35 minutes, might have scored 50 points. He was just absolutely unstoppable. He's draining threes. He's scoring in the post. There was nothing Pitt could do against him. And I'm going to need to see it to believe it that they've improved in that area tonight. Or I'm going to need to see it to believe it tonight that they've improved in that area. There's interesting guard matchups, interesting matchups on the perimeter. The play lately of Bub Carrington and Jalen Lowe, I think, is hugely encouraging. Never mind the bounce back from Blake Hinson, which we talked about it after the game. I think that was a big game for him. And our guy Steven Gertz with the analysis pointed this out, that he was 5 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3. I think it was 3 of 7, or was it worse than that? For some reason, 3 of 7 sticks in my head, but 3 of 9, excuse me, 3 of 9. Those aren't great numbers, but those are okay Blake Hinson numbers. Particularly if he offsets it with 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Those are okay. You'll take sort of that shooting performance from Hinson, and obviously you'd like to think that if he's not getting fouled and going to the line, he would convert those baskets, and a couple of them are three-point free throw attempts. And so you'd like to think he'll convert. But Carrington and Lowe, I think, were the biggest standouts, not just from the Louisville game, but the last 3 games combined, the Carolina game, the Syracuse game, and the Louisville game. And I have my stat sheet, not this stat sheet. This is from the Clemson game. See, they gave us these box scores, these paper box scores, and it's nice. It's not exactly environmentally friendly, and we have all this information online, so we don't necessarily need this, but I make the most of it. and included in here, down here, is the combined stats over the last 3 games from Jalen Lowe and Bub Carrington. Jalen Lowe in the last 3 games has shot 45% from the field, 43% from 3. He's averaging 9.3 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover in 23 minutes per game. Now, he's only shooting 62.5% from the free throw line, but he's 5 of 8. So it's not like it's a big sample size. But big numbers to consider. 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover per game over the last 3, while shooting 45% from the field and 43% from 3. That's huge. And then Bub Carrington, 46% from the field, 35% from 3, 17.7 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2.7 turnovers, 36.7 minutes per game. And he's shooting almost 80% from the free throw line. So the big numbers there. 17, I'm going to round up. Well, you want me to round up? I feel like it's a little bit laborious to and wordy to say all the points, but let's say the numbers with the decimals what they are. Bub Carrington in the last 3 games, 17.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, 4 assists per game. That's really good. Shooting 46.2% from the field and 35.3% from 3. He's 6 of 17 from 3 over the last 3 games. If Bub Carrington goes 2 of 5, roughly per game from beyond the arc, and Jalen Lowe goes 1 of 2, which is basically where he's at right now. He's 3 of 7 over the last 3 games. If you get 3 3-pointers out of those 2 guys combined every game, I think you're going to be in really good shape. If they shoot 46% from the field every game, you're going to be in good shape. If they combine for 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and less than 5 turnovers per game, you're going to be in good shape. And that's what they've been doing over the last 3 games, all against ACC competition, 2 of those games coming on the road, and the one at home being against one of the best teams they've played all season. These guys are growing and developing right in front of our eyes. This isn't a matter of, wow, they really lit it up against South Carolina State and Jacksonville and Purdue, Fort Wayne, and Florida Gulf Coast, and they did well in those games. They obviously played well, but you're seeing it. You follow the arc where they were excelling in the non-conference against the low majors and mid majors. They hit some struggles, and Carrington ran. I think for Carrington there was a period of adjustment when he started playing against the high major teams. And that took some time, but he's adjusted. Lowe is adjusted, and they've both been improved and I think been ascending over the last 3 games, as evidenced by the numbers. They're playing as well as they have all season, particularly when you consider the level of competition. And they're going to be key tonight. I don't think you concede the post and just give up, because if you just concede the post, Filipowski will score 40 or something like that. But I think, you try to challenge him down there. You try to battle him down there. Maybe you even try to work the ball down low and hope you can get a cheap foul or 2. Maybe get 2 cheap fouls in the first half. Maybe you get lucky and he has to go out. Although you thought you got lucky when he got hurt in the ACC tournament game, and that didn't exactly work out. But this is really going to be a game that's won. If Pitt wins, it's going to be a game that's won by Carrington and Lowe and Hinson. You'd like to see Zach Austin continue what he showed in that Louisville game. He obviously, he played great. He played one of his best games as a Panther. You'd like to see him carry that over. I'm still looking at that as a lottery ticket right now. I'm not sure if that's something that we're going to rely on. Game after game, week after week. But if he continues to do it, I think there's a possibility. I think, obviously that would be huge for Pitt. That would be a real boost going forward. Find out about the status of Ishmael Leggett, see what he's able to do, even if he's able to go, what his, full percentage really is. Because, we think we saw in the North Carolina game, I think he was less than 100% and ultimately sat out the Louisville game. So we'll find out kind of where he is, not just his availability, but what he's actually able to do on the court if he gets out there and plays. So it's Carrington, Lowe, and Hinson. Those are the guys who will win this game for Pitt if Pitt wins the game. I haven't made my pick yet for our picks on Panther-Lair.com. It's going to be hard for me to pick the Panthers, largely due to just, I think, the significant advantage that Duke has inside. But I think there's a way they can do it. There's a formula they can do it. If they pass well like they did at Louisville, if Carrington and Lowe play like they did at Louisville, if Hinson continues his sort of bounce back from the slump he was in like he did at Louisville, if they carry over things that they did against the worst team in the conference, they might have a chance to beat one of the best teams in the conference. I don't know. We'll have to see, but we'll find out tonight. 9 o'clock tip-off. That game will be on ESPN. Pitt, Duke at the Peterson Event Center. Like I say, it's on ESPN, but you should be at the game watching it, right? You know there's going to be a lot of Duke fans there. There were a lot of Carolina fans at that game. There are going to be a lot of Duke fans there. And if you're a Pitt fan, you should go and try to shout them down. You know what I mean? Like, try to be louder than the visiting crowd. And I think the Pitt fans largely did that in the Carolina game. But Carolina fans still had a big presence. That Syracuse game, Syracuse always brings a big crowd to Pitt, or there's always just a big crowd of Syracuse fans at the Pitt-Syracuse games. So Pitt fans should try to show up for that one too. But if they lose this game tonight, it's not the end of the world. But this is one of those opportunity games. This is a chance to give yourself a really good win, a resume-building win, and help build your case as an NCAA tournament team, because that's what you have to be thinking about right now. That's what we're all thinking about right now, is what can this team do? What can this team do to get itself into the NCAA tournament for a second consecutive season? Winning games like this would be a huge, huge step. There's a lot of other opportunities out there, but this is a big one. So we'll see what happens tonight. We'll talk about it on tomorrow's Morning Pitt. Don't forget to like and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com and check out the website Panther-Lair.com for all the Pitt sports coverage. That way you don't miss anything. Panther-Lair.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope you've had a great start to the week. Enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.